Hello, third graders, and welcome to Module 1, Lesson 2. In this lesson, we are going to continue working on an introduction to multiplication, and we're going to learn about something called an array. More on that in just a minute. But first, let's review what we learned in Module 1, Lesson 1. And there we learned that equal groups are needed to do repeated addition and to do multiplication. An equal group is a group that has the same number of objects in each group. And so, for example, if I had, let's see, 6 things here, and I moved 3 of them into each group, I would have 2 groups, and both groups would be the same size. Both groups would have 3 objects in them. And then we could say 3 plus 3 because we have 2 groups of 3, or we could say 2 groups times 3 things in each group equals 6. That's a brief recap of what we learned in Lesson 1. And today we're going to go and expand a little bit on that and take our equal groups and turn them into arrays. So let me share my screen and show you how we're going to do that. You'll see that I have some objects here. And I'm going to separate them into equal groups, and I like my groups to have 3 things in each. So let's see, 1 group of 3, another group of 3, third group of 3, and a 4th group of 3. So I have 4 groups with 3 things in each group. So I have the same number in each group, which is great. That means I can go ahead and make an array. And so an array, you're going to make rows and columns. Rows go across the top. So I have 1 row of 3. And then I'm going to put my next group below it. Each group is going to be a row. So I have another row of 3. I'll take my third group here, and I'll make a third row of 3. And I'll take my 4th group and make a 4th row of 3. And now we have what's called an array. Hope you can see that okay. I know the camera's slightly blurry. There's not much to focus on here, given the colors. But we have 4 groups, 4 rows, times 3 things in each row. So we have 4 rows, and we have 3 columns. Again, the rows are the groups. The columns are the size of the groups. And now, we can take another piece of paper and we could do our group counting. So like I said, each row is a group. So we could do 3, 6, 9, 12. So you can group count or skip count by going down each row. Again, 3, 6, 9, 12. Let me show you another example of that. I'm going to get my whiteboard because we're going to do a couple practice problems as well. All right. So you should be able to see my whiteboard now. And on that, I'm going to draw in red, let's see, 5 groups of 2. 2, 2, 2, 2, and 2. So I have 5 groups of 2. I'm going to turn this into an array. Because I have 5 groups, that means I'm going to have 5 rows. So draw a line here. I'm going to take this first group and say, that's a row. I've used those ones. My second group is a row. My third group is a row. 4th group is a row. And last but not least, my 5th group is a row. So now I have 5 rows, 2 in each row. The repeated addition sentence for this would be 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2, because we're taking each row and we're group counting or skip counting by that. And we go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So equals 10. You see how each group, like this row, is represented by that 2. This row is represented by the second 2. The third row is represented by the third 2. Now, skip counting is a fine way to do things, with the exception of when you get to really much larger numbers, it's really inefficient. So we want to learn how to turn these things into multiplication sentences. So let's do another example. Or actually, we can use that same example, 5 rows of 2, and let's turn that into a multiplication sentence. So we have our array. Let me write that word for you too, so you see it. Array. We have an array, which is when we have rows and columns, and they're all the same size. Notice that none of these have 3 in them, so each row has the same amount. Each group has the same amount. We can say we have our 5 rows, 2 columns. And so we take our 5 groups times 2 objects in each group. 5 rows times 2 in each group, 2 in each row, equals 10 objects. Now, you're going to have problems, word problems, that are going to say something like, Mr. Burnell has let's say a garden. He has 4 rows of, let's see, what am I planting? Strawberry plants, strawberry bushes. Each row has 5 plants. Draw an array and write a multiplication sentence. Okay, so then what would you do? Well, your first thing would be to identify the number of rows and columns. So 4 rows and 5 in each. So that means I'm going to have, I'll put an X for each object here. So each plant, I'm going to put my rows in first. 4 rows. You don't have to write this on the side. I'm just doing it to help show you. And then each row is going to have 5 in it. So you do have to count this first one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's really important to be organized when you draw these. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Notice I'm drawing them right under the one above them. So each X I'm putting right under the one that's above it. So it makes it really easy to visualize and really easy to count. Make sure I have the correct amount. So I have 5 in each. Now my multiplication sentence, I start with my number of rows, which is 4, and I multiply by the number in each row, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that equals 20 plants. If you all have any questions, please let me know. I'm happy to cover this again, whether it's in class or online. Thank you.